Hey there, party people. I just had the privilege to sit with Nicole MacLean. She is the head of sales and marketing at Composely, an SEO and content agency out of the Midwest. And we talked about a variety of topics. She is actually the host of the Content Matters podcast. So check that out. But we talked about a variety of topics from how to craft content that actually ranks not just for Google, but on the AI models themselves, how to get into the AI overviews, how they are using AI as content generators, and the importance of founder led content, but also diversifying across different individuals and experts across your firm. It was a great podcast. I hope you enjoy. I am here with Nicole MacLean. Thank you for being on. How are you today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So this will be fun. So you are the host of the Content Matters podcast, and
Yes.
you run sales and marketing for Composely, which is a company we love. We've done some great collaboration together on SEO and content and all things, and we're going to dive into a lot. But how does it feel now being on the other side? You don't have to host. You
I
just
know.
get to be peppered with questions by me. How's that feel?
It feels great. I hosted a webinar yesterday. And I was talking to the guest. I'm so used to podcasting where it feels like a little bit of the weight's off because you can edit things. There's no one live. And then suddenly there's a live audience on the other side. And it's like you forget what you're thinking. You forget
Yeah, right. Yeah.
words.
I'm blanking. What do I say? I love
Exactly.
it.
It is a different skill set. I say that because some people are like, I can't possibly host. Like, I have no good thoughts. One, you probably do.
Yeah.
Two, moderating and hosting and listening and knowing how to ask questions is different than having smart things to say. So I guess your audience will have to be the judge on if I'm a better
We'll have
host
to
than
be
I
the
am
judge.
guest.
This is going to be great content. We love it. And just we'll get into it, but video is such a big part of this new world that we're living in organic search.
Yes.
But first, Nicole, would you give a little introduction about yourself, Composely? What are you guys all about? Maybe just a thumbnail about what you do.
Yes. Okay. So very quick on Composely, just so you have a sense on maybe where some of my experience on and perspective on answers will come from. But we're a content first SEO agency. So we very much believe that content is important. It's not dead. It fuels many things. Search is changing. It's not dead, but it's changing. And what that looks like is just different. So we try to help clients kind of figure that out. Where is their audience searching, and how can they show up and be, as valuable and helpful, providing great insight to their clients as possible. My background is interesting. Actually, I still don't know why I was hired at Composely. Their top channels when I joined was obviously organic and paid. And those are the two things I'd never run before in my career. And I was very upfront about that in my interview.
Yes.
It's like, I like to say that I've done everything in marketing except paid and organic search. And he was like, great, you're hired. I was like, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
I'm not, but it's been great. So yeah, I started as an event marketer, which you learn a lot. Marketing sits at the center of many things, but events in particular, you have clients, you have prospects, you have partners, you have industry thought leadership, you have speakers, you have booth messaging and product marketing and demos. Like I got a really good sense of the business through that. I have done podcasting, content, blogs, partnerships, and now I do have PPC and SEO under my belt now, which is good.
You got it all now. You're the complete Swiss Army knife, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, also, one of the things I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you talk a lot about cutting through the noise and what do we have? 1.1 billion web pages out there, 250,000 new web pages a day being created. So we are accelerating on a content pace never before seen, particularly with AI generated content. Could you kind of very high level, and we'll get more detail, but orient us around where content is and in regards to why is it important? How do we get noticed? Not just on the search engines, but now the AI overviews. Can you give us some quick, I'm sure this will lead down a lot of rabbit holes.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, when we were building our show, Content Matters, the cutting through the noise really did resonate with us because there's just so much out there now. I mean, even not just websites, but LinkedIn is just kind of like an ego
Kind
trip.
of a dumpster
Yeah,
fire.
it's so different. It is. And like, I miss it's now just like, I was getting a haircut and here's my big real, realization about leadership from getting a
Yes.
haircut to like,
Yeah.
please join me. I'm so excited to announce I have a new role. I'm like, okay, what happened to LinkedIn? It used
Mhm.
to be great. And there still is, but you have that, you have YouTube, you have, I mean, I actually think Reddit is slowly taking over some of what LinkedIn
It
used to
really
be.
is. Mhm.
You have Slack communities, you have blog posts, you have websites, you still have like long form
Discord.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it can just vary again, depending on B2B, B2C, where your audience lives. So the cutting through the noise was us just saying, I, at least for Composely, I didn't want something else going out from our brand that just kind of gets piled on the heap of so content. And to us, I think that means like one of a couple things. One, of course, there's some philosophy, there's some visioning when you talk about marketing and what's coming up. But our goal was that we always, especially in the podcast, it's kind of how I know to wrap up the episode is if I've gotten one or two tactical, actionable things that I
Mm.
think someone listening could actually go implement immediately and isn't just a big kind of thought out there, that's kind of when I know the episode's in a good spot.
Oh, good point.
Um, so that's kind of always been my philosophy is like, if you come to a webinar, if you read a blog post, if you listen to a podcast, can you walk away with something you could actually go implement and feel like you're moving forward, like taking at least one incremental step? That's kind of been my rough benchmark of like, is this good content? So that was kind of one thing was I think a lot of people like to talk big philosophy because
Mm.
it's I don't want to say it's easier, but like you're maybe not as held to it because it's like,
Yeah.
well, this is a philosophy. But when you're actually getting down to tactics, it either works or it doesn't. And I think that's what everyone's looking for.
And people
Um,
need tactics, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And especially right now, it's the whole marketing does more with less. We hear that like every 2 years. But that's, I think, what people need. Like, we have a really hard job. When I started at Composely, I was probably one of the, I'll say, like, few classically trained marketers on a
Mhm.
team serving marketers. And I kind of viewed that as my role to give insight into the mind or the psychographics of our
Mhm.
client. And I'm like, I don't know that you guys know how hard marketing is. I'm not saying other functions and departments aren't also hard. But last I checked, the CMO has the shortest tenure in the C-suite.
Yeah.
You'd think it's sales if things aren't going well, but it's not. Marketing gets kicked off faster. You have less time to prove that things work. You do have to manage perspectives, opinions from product, CS, sales, the leadership
Mhm.
team. And sometimes you don't always get the full seat at the table to like make the decisions to actually know what to do there. And so it's a hard place to be. So I think with content, and one again, like we're marketing to marketers. So that's kind of
Mhm.
my lens is just looking at our content strategy, say, how do you cut through the noise? I think if marketers feel like they're actually getting help and support, that's just going to help us in the end. And so that's kind of been the goal with our show and just cutting through the noise in general. To get to kind of your thought of Google versus the AI, it's always kind of talking. I feel like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth because there is the content you have to just have that's kind of the definition
Mm.
that it's not that it can't be helpful. It's not that you can't infuse brand personality into it, but it's kind of the basics of like, what is SEO? What is link building? What is a
Mhm.
blog post? I mean, that's very basic. But at this point and this stage, a lot of your buyers, for instance, if that's kind of your, like for both of us, it's very similar to
Mhm.
what we would talk about. You have to tell the AI and you have to tell Google that you understand those basics so that
Right.
you earn the right to talk about the more complicated problems and the things your clients probably actually care about. That's always such a hard discussion when a CEO is like, why are we putting out a blog post about what is a blog? Like our
Mhm.
readers are never going to read that. Our readers already know, like our ideal buyers already know that that's not helpful content. But you do kind of have to set that foundation and prove you know the 101 topics
Mm.
before you can rank organically on the 301, 501 topics. And for that, I don't want to say it's noise, but that's just kind of the basics of like define it, give the information. But I wouldn't spend a ton of your time pouring thought leadership
Mm.
into making a blog like that the best blog ever. Instead, that's where you should be focusing on like the bottom of funnel content, the more 501 level topics. And I think that's
Mm.
where if you can make those shine, that is kind of how you cut through the noise a little bit. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
mean,
you have thoughts on
there's
that, so I'll pause.
no, I mean, yeah, maybe we can riff off this topic together. But what we've noticed trying to get into, because like at least half, even on B2B, at least half the searches have some type of AI component. Either the search
Hmm.
starts on AI or the research starts on AI, and then they go over to the actual company web pages. So anything
Right.
informational where you can show up in the AI overview or one of the pieces of source data, that's very challenging, but it's very it's golden if you can do it. So
Yeah.
if I'm writing about stuff that New York Times is writing about, I'm never going to have as much authority um or just, credibility. And that's really what it's about for AI, is like how much credibility and authority do you have on that? But to your point, if I start with that foundational work, and we've
Hmm.
noticed more is more is more with AI, but it's got to be good. So if you're able to
Right.
demonstrate everything, why you're an expert about blogs and why someone should, engage with you about blogging, you need to tell the AI who's going to service that, serve that content up to an end user. You got to show that I I've written extensively on this. Look at my original survey data, look at my
Hmm.
graphs, look at my source data, look at everything that I did to go into this very foundational piece. At least recognize I'm an expert. AI.
Right. Well, and then it just, I feel like we haven't seen it yet, which is the kind of like meta experience of people who are creating this content with AI that's then feeding AI things
Yes.
that it's
Robots selling
right.
to robots. Yes,
Exactly.
that'll be the world.
I don't know that we've fully seen that come to fruition yet of what that really means for the LLMs, but I think that's why it is important. You have to have a human touch if you use AI in content creation or figure out,
Mhm.
and that's kind of the classic, figure out where it fits in your content workflow so that it isn't crap going on your
Mhm.
site. But I think the AI also is very interesting in that it does pick up on more nuance than like your classic link presentation of
Right.
what Google used to be. You know, it's not like a large percentage, but we do have leads who have come in and said, "Oh, I found you through search on ChatGPT or whatever."
Right.
And then I always ask, "Well, what was your prompt to get us?" And their prompt is the most detailed. Like, there's probably 40 keywords in this thing.
Yeah.
It's super specific. And I'm like, great, because I remember one in particular. I'm like, you literally hit our top 3 value props that we've tried to thread across our entire website. Great, and it worked. We showed up on that list, and we're having a conversation. I think it also presents an opportunity to not get so bogged down on the individual blogs, but to really think about, what does your whole website say? How are you showing up on
Mm.
social media? How are you showing up in roundup lists? Are you getting PR, or like, I think digital PR is going to become a bigger piece.
It's a lot more important. Yeah.
Um, and it's, Google's always said, we look at holistic things. If people are coming to your site from other referral traffics, that just increases your credibility. But I think the AI platforms now also have the ability to pull from
The whole
how you
website.
show up and those keywords that are being used to describe your brand on a G2 Crowd, on a Trustpilot, on a Yelp. And that now I think has even more impact for how
Gosh, that's
you can
such an
get found.
interesting point. It's not just about, we even at Sure Oak here, we stop using, well, for AI, we don't really say keywords. We say key conversations, because it
Yeah.
starts with informational and then it goes to transactional, all within the same research period. So,
Hmm.
I'm looking for an insurance agent near me. What should I look for in insurance? What type of coverage do I need? What pricing should I expect? And then, can you recommend somebody near me? And then I go over and I start going through the SERPs, or actually might
Right.
recommend in itself. Our problem with that is sometimes that source data is not always accurate
Yeah.
just yet. I think 60% of the time we see the links are broken and it's
Hmm.
fabricating some research, or maybe it had it at one point and it's gone. And then the other thing that we notice with AI, just because we rank this week, next week's a totally different release, a different model, totally different, and all that hard work's gone.
Yep.
It's very fickle and it's changing fast. I don't know if you've had any experience with that with your customers.
Yeah, it really is. And then I think the other thing that we've been coaching is, you really have to not only coach like our points of contact, so marketers, but then marketers have to now go serve as an educator internally to say, we
Yeah.
used to care about traffic, we used to care about clicks. Oh no, that's going down, I'm going to get fired. You have to kind
Yeah.
of start proactively. I mean, even now, if you're just having that conversation with leadership for the first time, you're probably a little behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
But I mean, traffic and clicks are going to go down. There's no two ways about it. But
Particularly if your
ideally,
website's informational, right?
yes.
Like,
But ideally, you're seeing click-through rate go up. You're seeing time on
mhm,
page go up, maybe engagement rate go up. That tells the story that our content, now we're driving people to the site that are actually qualified or that are actually interested versus a bunch of garbage clicks. That
mhm,
was kind of has always been a vanity metric, but it was a good metric. And now with like zero click search and with AI, and then I've been saying this a lot lately in other instances, but I think watching organic branded organic traffic or organic or branded keyword
mhm,
as well as direct traffic, I think needs to be more part of the conversation for metrics, because if
mm,
you're showing up in AI or you're being included in these AI overviews and it is fickle, you're still creating brand awareness. You're still doing what content marketing was always meant to do, which was to give value, build that relationship, build that credibility, and earn that client in the end. It's just now they might see your brand, they never click. They might do that 10 times and then just type in the name of your company,
yeah.
which is fine. And it's really hard because we're not going to be able to like attribute it to it. But if you see that go up as you're still intentionally doing some of these things, I think that is a good leading metric of that brand awareness, of that share of voice in the market.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, we used to do it every 6 months with Google when they would change their algorithm. And so we would have these rising traffic, rising conversions, then a dip. And then
Mhm.
we come back usually a little stronger, because if you're working with a good content, organization or a good SEO firm, or you have internal talent, usually you're stumbling forward, right? You're
Right.
stumbling upward.
Right.
And I think the same applies here. Like, okay, it's not a 6 month push or a 6 month change in the algorithm. It's a weekly release of new AI models. And therefore, yeah, you might dip, but keep holding to those fundamentals. We like to say, follow what Google says. EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, trust.
Mhm.
Keep doing those things, keep exhibiting that. In the long run, you're just going to pay off. With I would love your take on this. We've noticed that it's favoring more in-depth authority, more in-depth expertise on pages,
Mm.
but then it's really favoring new data, right? So this is something that a lot of companies haven't been familiar with, like doing original surveys or niching down. Okay, so this is a generic piece of content about insurance. Well, let me write it specifically for people that are in the landscaping business where there's not much. You call it what a long tail key conversations.
Right.
Like that's where we're going with these, with some of this
Yeah.
content. I don't. Did you see the same trends?
Well, yeah, and I think that goes to kind of what I was saying of the prompts are so much more
Mm,
expansive. The conversations are so much more expansive that you can now show up for something so niche that I think we would call that like a zero monthly search. You should talk about it, but it's so niche. You just have to believe that the right audience will get there. And now I think with AI, it's actually going to be easier to get in front of the people having, whether you call it, long tail conversations. So I think that niche is important. But even not just, I mean, obviously, yes, EEAT is important. It's the foundation of just what good content is. But I also think there's going to be like a 2-year sweet spot. I mean, SEO is changing. I mean, Google just had a huge
hmm.
keynote. There's no two
Yep.
ways about it. But I think you're going to have a lot of people who get spooked and are going to be like, it's dead. Stop investing in it.
Mm,
Stop writing blog posts. Stop doing content. Go do XYZ thing. And because people are going to freak and leave, I think if you can stay steady in just good SEO best practices, you actually might see that you still can increase your lead volume from organic, because so many people are going to be like, it's dead. We're not investing any resources here. We're going to go figure out a Reddit, a Discord, a thing. And so I think if you can stay steady and not get too freaked out, like to point, there's still been enough to kind of thing. Like I almost think of Wikipedia back in the day where everyone was like,
mm,
you can't use Wikipedia. It's not reliable. If you use Wikipedia for a college paper, like you're going to get suspended or whatever. Like
yeah.
And now people use Wikipedia all the time because it's done the work. It's become like you can follow links better. It's
Hmm.
put things in place. I kind of think that's where AI is. People get it, but it's still wrong enough of the time that they're still clicking those links. And whether
Yeah.
it's Google's AI, Perplexity, ChatGPT, you're still getting some of that link traffic. 2, 3 years from now, maybe not. Maybe it gets better. People start trusting it more. But there's still demand in organic practices. And if you can stay, I think, steadfast in that, you're still going to get. But you should still be preparing for how it's shifting. You should still be looking and de-risking and looking at a Reddit. How does your content show up there? YouTube and video. How are you repurposing? Can you lead with video as a podcast, a webinar
Mm,
series, put that on YouTube and then use that great content to still feed your blog strategy and
right.
make sure you're still showing up? I think it's just being smarter. My hunch is that you're going to have a lot of people pulling out of organic for fear that it's dead. And there's still probably a solid 2 years left of like kind of the current strategy before it really breaks. So how can you like stay steadfast while also building something up and building up a new muscle over the next year or two for whatever that shift looks like?
Yeah, that's super interesting that people who say SEO is dead. I don't know if they understand what SEO means, right?
Well, I think Google,
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing is
Yeah,
it's
well,
so
Google goes, yeah,
synonymous.
search. Yeah, but like we've been here before, Google took over for Yahoo's algorithm. It was
Right.
just a new place to get organic leads. For us, we view it as just an exciting new channel to
Hmm.
the dismay of a lot of CMOs who are already investing across 22 different, marketing channels. Now I got to
Right.
worry about this one.
Yeah.
But for us, the model's still trained on content, is trained on the whole internet. So when I die and go away, if I never wrote anything about myself and I don't have anything, then like no one's gonna remember me because like AI is not gonna say, "Oh, Nick Fromfelder was a jolly old guy who was a decent dad," and and
Yeah.
maybe lost his temper a couple times too much. But like that's not gonna exist. So if I'm not telling the model what to serve up, if I'm not training it, then it's not going to be there. One, two, everything in there is derivative. So if you want, hey, write me a piece on again, cybersecurity protocols for CMMC compliance, right? It'll do that because it's pulling from derivative content. But it should free you up as a writer to, okay, well, this is the basics. What's the next thing on it? Or who can I
Hmm.
tailor this for? AI could help you or not. That's what
Yeah.
I'm
Can I go
hoping
create
people
a
understand.
survey? Yeah. Can I go do some original research and add that in that no one else has?
That's
Yeah.
where you win in AI to me. Okay, so talk to me about your writers and your use of AI. Good, bad, and different. What's going on? How do you use it as content generators to use it wisely, effectively? The good and the bad.
Yes, I wish I could phone a friend and have our head of editorial weigh in because I'm sure when she hears this I will butcher it. But we of course decided from the jump like we're not going to be afraid of AI.
Mhm.
You can't not have AI as part of your process nowadays. That being said, you'd be surprised. I hear the spectrum of people with AI. The if you're not using it, you're an idiot. To I do
Mm,
not want anything but human hands crafting my content.
mm,
So, for now we have a spice of life for everyone. We've kind of kept it separate. So we do have an AI assisted content path
mhm.
where it's actually editors who are really driving that. Most of
Right.
them have more of an editing background than a writing background. They're learning to prompt. We use multiple tools. I had one of our editors describe AI as like a toddler. And in the morning, it can be great and you can have this wonderful relationship and get this great content out of it. And then you can come back to it in the afternoon and it's garbage. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm tired. Don't ask me. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to bounce around and you have to understand the different tools and what they're good at. So that's again, we're embracing all of the tools. And then there's still always another set of eyes that look over it before it goes back to a client. And that human hands on the wheel is still important. Please never copy and paste something directly from a
Yes.
conversation onto your website. And then we have human writers, and we're currently experimenting on kind of what are the guardrails and how much do we let them use it and not. But we do have a team that still is solely human writers. no AI is used in the creation of this content. And there's also things that we know AI is good for. And a lot of times we're transparent to be like, you don't need to pay for
Right.
human. Like you real and like depending on your goals, your audience, your industry, AI is going to be great for you. There are some though that it is super technical, or there's not a ton of publicly available information
Right.
on the web, or they're so concerned about tone or whatever their goals are. Again, we tend to say like it is more expensive, but you probably need to be in a more human driven content creation workflow.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you leave it more up to the preference of the client and what their risk tolerance is, but you're very open about your use of AI and
Hmm.
good and bad.
Correct.
Have you noticed any of the models are better for writing than others? I mean, is it you said it was a toddler. I mean, there's 4 or 5 toddlers now. We got
There are.
Gemini, we got Claude, we got Llama,
Some
we
of it
got
is personal
ChatGPT.
preference of the editors. I know that of our team, they each kind of have their own personal preference. I mean, obviously, ChatGPT and the ability to create custom GPTs and train it and have some
Mhm.
security there that if you're feeding one client, it kind of lives there. So there, of course, that's a foundational, but especially if tone and brand voice is important. I know Claude, hands down, has been a kind of go-to across the team.
It's the safest,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
It's like if we can make it work in Claude, we probably will. But of course, ChatGPT is the still kind of 100
There
pound
was a
gorilla.
there was a funny Reddit. I think it was even a meme that went around, but the user was asking, when is Claude gonna stop being like my grandmother and putting his puritanical values on me at
Oh
every
my god.
but it's the safest, and
Yeah.
it's never gonna Dario Amodei, obviously, thanks to him, he's really concerned about safety and doesn't want his model being one that speaks out of turn or goes
Right.
down a path that's not what he doesn't consider the race to the top. So
Right.
that's super interesting. Okay, so back to these, like, hey, let's get some tactical takeaways
Yes.
for the group here. So when you walk into engagements, what are the top couple mistakes that you always see people making over and over with their content or their websites or SEO? Anything you want to talk about, but top mistakes that people need to avoid and remediate quickly.
Top mistakes. This is good. I want to keep it positive, but also
Yeah,
look at some
yeah.
things. I mean,
You can flip it too. What's the top 2 things they should be doing?
totally fair.
Okay.
I think there's a couple things. One, as someone who didn't have like an English background or journalism background
Mhm.
going into marketing, maybe this is more known for someone like that. But I think I've learned so much at this company about the different skill sets and like what you actually need. And I think we underestimate because I think there's this thing where we hire a content marketer, and normally that
Mhm.
content marketer has a writing background and they're writing a lot of your content, but you also
Mhm.
are expecting them to be the editor, and you're also expecting them to be your strategist, and also
Yeah.
expecting them to pull thought leadership out of thin air.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
been a lot on that role that when I think, at least what I've seen, maybe just one caution of trying to outsource that or finding a good partner is the expectation that a writer or an editor can do all of that.
Right.
And they really can't. I mean, some can, but if you want a good writer, they are writers. If you want a good editor, they are editors. And if you want a strategist, maybe they have those backgrounds, but not every writer is a great strategist and not every strategist is a great writer. And so I think just understanding that nuance has been important to like set expectations and what you should be
Mm.
providing as a client, whether again it's freelance, it's third party, or even an internal hire. Just really understanding what you need and the skill set of who you're asking to do it
Mm.
has just been something that's been eye-opening for me. Guidelines and briefs and to point setting expectations is often like a big mistake. We say it a lot, but very few. We have style guides as
Mhm.
marketers, but typically 90% of that style guide is based on the visuals and how to use colors and how to use your
Oh,
logo and
okay.
not to use your logo, and that's not really helpful when creating content and written
Yeah.
content. So spending some time really looking like having examples of, okay, if we want to be friendly and conversational, what does that actually mean to us? What is the boundary of how conversational we can be versus what is too formal? And
Mm.
having some of those examples for people, again, whether it's an in-house or a third party, I think that's really important. And making sure that it's clear. I think, especially in the world of founder-led content, founder-led thought leadership right now, and maybe it is, but we conflate, I think that's the right word. I sometimes use wrong. I work for a writing company, but
I have a large
as long as
vocabulary.
you say it with confidence, it's
Yeah.
fine. But the writers on the call are going to be like, that probably wasn't the right word. Um, think that their voice is the brand voice. And I think for a startup, when you have 10 people, it probably is, and that's okay.
Yes.
But as you grow and get bigger, recognizing that you need to have different voices and how it fits in, and just because it's not how the CEO would say it, doesn't mean it's not a good article, doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it doesn't match the brand, what the brand voice should be. And sometimes those expectations are really hard. Again, even for in-house. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in my past I can think about, everyone's read this blog, everyone's read this press release, this quote that obviously the CEO didn't write. It was your poor
Yes.
little content marketer
Yeah.
who's doing their best. And everyone's like, this is a solid press release. It hits our messaging. And then it finally gets to the CEO and it is just ripped apart. And they're like, I
Mm,
would never say this. And this is terrible. It's like, okay, well, one, either you need to give us that information so
yes.
we can do it. Or two, if you're not, which is fine, recognizing like it doesn't have to, everything that comes out doesn't have to match the founder or the
Yeah.
thought leader's voice. And I think if that's probably more of a small mid-size, but if you can set that expectation with your founder or help train them with that, oftentimes you're going to be able to move faster. It's really not about their voice, it's about what's going to resonate with your target audience, and do they like the content, and trying to keep that present. Our CEO Mike has said this before and will remind us in meetings, but this idea of like leave a chair at the table for your client, or
Mm,
leave a square in the Zoom meeting
yeah. Yeah.
for your client. And I think that can get lost, especially in content, of getting so worked up over, is this the right word? Is this the right way
Yeah.
to say it? And just be like, well, does your client want to read it? Is this going to add value to them? Cool, ship it, get it in market. Because if
Yeah.
it's not in market, then no one's reading it. So I think that perspective sometimes can get challenging.
Yeah. I think that's really good. You shouldn't be afraid as a CEO or a business owner to give people that are more specialized in certain parts of your service offering a voice. Because if you sell
Yeah,
enterprise software, there's all types of different experts within your company that have a
for
voice,
sure.
and they can be the ones authoring. It doesn't detract from the brand at all. In fact, I think sometimes one, it's hard to get people to get writing or to put their name on things as the founder. Okay, so if you're doing that, great job. But if
Yeah.
you've been doing that a while, don't be afraid to start giving other people platforms. It
Mhm.
just helps the brand.
Mhm.
Particularly, well, we see it all the time too, like blogs with no authorship, or a
Yes.
random
That's a
video
tactical
stuck in.
tip. Do authorship.
Do authorship, have author pages, show your
Yes.
expertise. Why? And the other thing I think people miss a lot is the algorithm is advocating for the human. The robot is looking for human content, and
Mhm.
the robot's looking for human authority. So the more that you can demonstrate that this is gonna, like, don't just write for the algorithm, don't just write to get on AI.
Right.
View that AI wants to get this in the
To
hands of a
humans.
human and wants them to have a good experience reading it, because that's its end all goal. So when you're writing, very humanized content that's engaging, useful. And so what we see is just, we still see it, walls of text. Just, we still see keyword stuffing. Can you believe it or
Mhm.
not? Right. And so not doing that research of making, okay, this is a blog, but you got to go beyond just 500 words now. You need probably, 5,000 words. You need like
And FAQs,
graphics in
it
there.
feels a little old school, but especially for AI, if you could have a blog post and then really easily summate,
Such a good point.
word your points in 5 FAQs at the bottom with good FAQ schema, that is also what AI is looking for, because most people are asking
Totally.
it questions.
Well, and it wants something for the AI overview. So if you're the only one defining this key term, well, guess what? You get your source data at the top real estate of the SERP, right? Like,
Right.
because Google gave that away. We're like, we're not doing ads up there anymore. We're doing
I
AI
know.
overviews by Gemini. And if your
If you're
FAQ
there.
answers that correctly,
Yeah.
you're number one. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a big mistake not having an FAQ.
Well, and to your point on that, I think the other tip I would say is you actually should spend the most amount of your time in the topic and brief stage and not when the article's been written. I'll make sure you have whoever is the SME who has to review it, make sure they're bought in on the topic, make sure everyone's looked at the brief. That's your chance to infuse some of your thought leadership. Hey, here's a customer quote that I think would really support this. Here's a hot take. One hot take, but this is like the big idea.
Yeah.
Just put it in there somewhere. And if you put all of that up front, the writer now has very clear guidelines, both like what are the related terms and keywords I should be looking at and your thought leadership. And if you have your product people or your salespeople kind of bought in at that stage, you're going to save yourself so much time in the revision stage. And I think a lot of people are just like, well, here's an outline, cool. And then they get so bogged down going through 8 rounds of revisions or having to get revisions from all these people.
Mm.
And then I would also really think about your layout of your blog to have, I don't know how much AI can pick up on this. Like I know it's reading schema, but even more for the human component, if you can have some sort of designed call out that is the big idea or like your big tip or, cool idea, like whatever it is, be fun with it, but call that out in like 1 to 2 places. That's where your thought leadership is. And the rest still is kind of following some of the SEO and has the keywords in the right spot. But those are the pieces that people can scan and be like, cool, I trust this company. They know what they're doing. Or that was really smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't have to be, I was gonna say, you don't have to be smart throughout the whole thing. You just need like 2 moments of brilliance.
Yeah.
And that's a great article.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You need the soundbite that's interesting to the human, which if it's interesting to the human, is probably going to be interesting. Yeah, be interesting to the algorithms and the training models. We like to call it the textbook technique. You're probably too young. Did you even have textbooks?
Yes, I had textbooks.
You could have textbooks. All right.
I had textbooks. Yeah, I had to wrap them and get the
shrink wrap them.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you. That's good.
I'm
glad that's not a lost art. But the textbook had titles, it had headers, it had like those call out boxes, had a table of contents, had glossaries.
You loved the call out boxes because that's just, you just read that. You knew what the whole chapter is about.
But how many web pages don't have a sticky table of contents that follows them around for easy navigation? How many times do we see header 1 and header 2 just not even have primary or secondary keywords in them? It's just, and like this is where SEO has changed a lot. I don't need SEMrush and Ahrefs anymore to find the keywords that are important. Well, 1, they should be in your head, but 2, ChatGPT can give you the secondary keywords to make your language natural, right? And that's what Google and AI hate, is that non-natural language. And so if we're not writing and making these pages engaging, then we're just missing so many organic opportunities. So
yeah, absolutely.
Favorite business book or a piece of content that people need to read?
Ooh, okay. This is a good one. There's a couple I've read recently. I know you said for 1. I'm going to give you 3. 1, now I have to remember. Unreasonable Hospitality.
Okay.
It is the husband of the founder of the bakery in New York, but it was like a 3-star Michelin restaurant in New York, and he talks about his experience in fine dining, but how it relates to businesses and going above and beyond for your clients and creating that unreasonable hospitality. Super fun mix of like New York culture with really great food and also applicability to business.
That's great.
The Jolt Effect, which is the follow-up of the Challenger sale. So they took a bunch of calls from COVID 2020, when every sales call was recorded on Zoom, and found that sometimes the Challenger sale works, but it's oftentimes about removing people are too risk averse.
Oh.
And if you push them, if someone is risk averse and you push them with the Challenger, you're going to lose the sale, versus if you figure out how to de-risk working with you. So knowing that has been fascinating. And then this one's a little more personal, but the relentless elimination of hurry.
Okay.
Has been, I'm not completely finished with it, but this idea that we're too busy and we're too hurried and we're not present. It's personal, but also like leaders showing up for your team and knowing how to take a bit of a pause every once in a while. So those are my 3 right now.
So take a pause and read those 3 books. That is
Yes,
fantastic.
I
Yeah.
love it.
That reminds me, you ever read Setting the Table by Danny Meyer?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it
You know
because I'm
about it. That's
pulling
a
it up
great
on my
one too.
tab. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually pull from that one quite a bit. He has this salt shaker analogy. Like the directions are to put the salt shaker right in the middle of the table. And when people don't do that, don't get mad. Don't get mad. You don't need to get emotional
Mm,
about it. You just need to correct them and have them put it back. I'm like, that's just really practical advice, not to get emotional about people not doing things the way that
things
you
that you
want.
would
Just
do.
you just
Mm,
have to keep working through it unemotionally. That's what. So
yes. Okay. That's going on my list for sure.
very good, very good. Nicole, the Nick and Nicole show. That was
I
fun,
know it
right?
was. Thank you
It
so
could be
much
its
for
own
having me.
podcast. How can people get a hold of you?
Yes. Connect with me on LinkedIn
Okay.
or reach out to me. Nicole@compose.ly is email. Happy to connect. I love virtual coffee chats. I was an intern at Exact Target, which was bought by Salesforce.
Oh
And
yeah,
literally in my internship, we had to keep a list of coffee chats you had throughout your internship and turn it in. And so it just established a really great muscle of meet people for coffee
oh,
network.
that's
So
great. Was
if you'd
that
like to do
before
a virtual
Pardot?
coffee chat,
So I know Salesforce bought Exact Target and then they bought Pardot, or was it? Do I
Exact
have it
Target
reverse?
bought Pardot, I'm pretty sure.
And then
No,
Salesforce bought the whole thing. Oh wow.
no, now I can't remember if it was iGo Digital. There's a couple. We're all in the same sphere. But yeah, so I'm in Indianapolis. I don't know if I said that. So Exact Target was our big, we have like the second largest Salesforce office because of the acquisition.
That's
So that's our
fantastic.
claim to fame.
That's fantastic. Well, Salesforce has been good to Atlanta, as is David Cummings, the founder of Pardot. So
There you go. Okay.
he put Atlanta on the map for a lot of startups. So we appreciate him
That
working
was
in the
Exact
SaaS
Target
space.
for us. Exactly.
Yes, Nicole, thank you for your time, and we will see you around. And hope people check you
Absolutely.
out and check out the podcast.
I know I was going to
Right,
say content matters.
content matters. That's
We
great.
can leave in the show notes a link to our show
We
if you
will.
want to check it out. But yeah, it was been so great. And thank you so much for your partnership over the
Oh,
years as
totally.
well.
I hope you'll come
This is
back.
fun. Always.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Anytime.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye bye.